So today what I'm going to be talking about is lawns, and I want you to kind of get the best lawn on the block. That's why we titled this webinar, How to Get the Best Lawn on the Block, because that's what we really feel that we can do here in Hampton Roads. So if you live in the Hampton Roads area and you haven't bought grass seed from us, you should. And we have a kit program. So we've got these two packages that I've got displayed here. I'm going to talk about those real briefly in a second. But cool season lawns, fescue is what we do in the Hampton Roads area. So if you've ever heard about bluegrass, bluegrass is really considered more of a weed in this area. They continue to work on varieties to try and make them more heat tolerant. It's a gorgeous grass, but it's really more of a Pennsylvania, Kentucky, kind of something that doesn't get quite as hot as we do in the summer. But here, fescue does hold up probably the best of any cool season grass. So if you're looking to do a lawn that has the most amount of green, then fescue is probably your best choice. And that's what we carry in this area, and we carry a really, really nice fescue mix. I'll get into that a little bit later. But if you haven't bought grass seed from us, you definitely should try it. Our grass seed is pure grass seed. It's really, really nice, and it's designed for this area. So you're going to want to stick around to kind of learn all about that. Cool season lawns, we do them in the fall season because it gives it the longest amount of time before summer hits. So we're planting in September and October so that it germinates, it gets acclimated. It has about, 6, 7, 8 months to get acclimated before we start to really see any kind of real hot temperatures. And so that's why we do it in the fall. In the spring, we really don't recommend doing a whole lot of seeding. Now, if you've got to do some fill-in, some patchwork, that's definitely accomplishable. But if you're trying to really do a lawn, then with fescue, then you want to do it in the cool season. Now, there's a lot of warm season types of grasses out there as well. You've probably heard of them: Bermuda, St. Augustine, zoysia. Those are three of our favorites. And you can do them by plug. Some of them you have to do by plug, St. Augustine. And then some you can do by plug or seed or a combination of both. Now, I'm not going to get into any detail really on the summer grass. I did a webinar in the past on summer lawns, so you can definitely go check that out. It talks about plugging, it talks about seeding, it talks about everything that you need to know there. What I'm going to try and focus on today is our cool season. But I do want to kind of bring that up because it's a good time to kind of decide if you were thinking that you want to do fescue, or maybe you were thinking about doing Bermuda or St. Augustine or zoysia, then you kind of need to make a decision fairly quickly. And hopefully I'll help you kind of determine what that situation is, or what that solution is or decision is for yourself. I personally love fescue. It is, I think, by far the most ornamental grass. It is a very, very gorgeous grass. It's really the only grass that you can have that completes an evergreen process of your lawn throughout the entire year. Of course, fescue is a cool season grass. That's why we plant in the fall. So it's going to struggle in the summer season. So we got to be careful about our summer weather here in this area. But if we can get it kind of through the summer, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to do that, then I think you can really have a really amazing fescue lawn in the Hampton Roads area. It's very attainable, and it is by far the prettiest lawn. So what I want to do first is I really want to get into our kit program and tell you about the two kits that we carry here at the Garden Center. And hopefully that helps you kind of realize that this can be very, very easy. Now, there's a whole ton more information that I'm going to give you after this. So I'm going to go real quick and just kind of talk about these two kits so that you kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to go into a great amount of detail on all the different things that you can do in this area to get really the best lawn on the block. But with these two kits, you can have a really, really nice lawn for very, very minimal amount of money and work. So we're trying to make it easy. We're trying to get you the essentials, the most important things. So fall is approaching. We're going to be talking about our fall lawn kits. Now, this is our lawn kit. It's very, very simple. You get a big bag of grass seed, a 25-pound bag of grass seed. That'll do about 4,000 square feet of new lawn, 6,000 square feet of overseed. So it kind of helps you judge how much you're going to need there. How many kits? Most yards are about 5,000 square feet, so one kit should do you. And then each of these bags of fertilizer come with the kit. So normally this whole kit is $199. So our grass seed is $119, our bags of fertilizer are $39.99, so that equals $199. So it's a $199 kit, and we always do a great deal on it. So right now it's $159. So it's a great deal. We always have this deal on this kit when we're selling our lawn kits in the fall season. So no matter when you come in, you're going to get that deal, so you don't have to worry about rushing in. However, it's a great time to go ahead and get it because I think a lot of people are going to be doing lawns this year. So this is our fall kit, and this is all you got to do in the fall is put down the grass seed, get it to germinate. Then once it germinates, we're going to put our first bag of lawn food. Now you might be saying, why do you get two bags? Well, you put your first bag of lawn food down first. as this germinates. So when your grass starts to germinate, you're going to put your first bag down. Then you're going to save the last bag until about Thanksgiving, probably right around late November, early December, and you're going to put your second bag down. And that's going to feed it into the winter and help it store that food. It's going to store that food and use it up in the springtime. Now, typically with a fescue lawn, I don't recommend fertilizing in the spring because summer can come very quickly. So when I talk about our fall lawn kits, it's all about grass seed. It's all about the grass and the fertilizer and getting it what it needs and getting it growing fast. So that's what we're going to do in the fall. In the spring, we want you to come in and get our weed prevention kit. So in the spring, we really want to focus on weeds and controlling weeds. You're going to get some weeds this fall. They're going to die when it gets really cold, and they're going to kind of creep back in. And that's normal, and we're going to control them. So this is our spring weed control kit, and what you do is you come in around February, maybe early March. I'd love you to come in February because it's the best time to really get this, because we can start seeing some warm days in February. And you're going to apply 1 bag of our pre-emergent. Now the pre-emergent is going to prevent weeds from germinating. That's what pre-emergents do. It stops it before it even starts. Now nothing's 100%, so we give you a bottle of Weed Free Zone. Now Weed Free Zone is a great liquid weed killer. This will kill weeds that are actively growing as long as the temperatures are above 45 degrees. So that's why you can still use this in the month of February and March. On a warm day, you can go out and spray this. And so you can kill weeds that are up and actively growing, and you can prevent weeds. And again, you might be saying, why do I get a second bag? Well, you get the second bag because you're going to get the first bag is going to cover you through March and April. And then the second bag is going to be your May and June. And why do we need that second bag? Because that's May and June is that crabgrass season. I'm sure we all know crabgrass, and crabgrass can be very aggressive and very hard to control. And so we want to get it before it starts. And so again, we're trying to prevent our cool season crop, our cool season weeds of henbit, chickweed, clover, all of those. And then in the summer, we're trying to prevent the crabgrass from coming in. So we want to get you kind of a 4-month coverage of a pre-emergent. And that's why this kit is so essential for controlling weeds. And there's no fertilizer in any of this. That's why I really like this, is because there's no fertilizer. So you can use this on St. Augustine, zoysia, any type of grass you have. But if you're doing cool season grass, you definitely want to use this in the fall and winter. So that's really the short and sweet. You can have a very, very nice lawn by doing these 2 kits. This one in the fall, all about the grass seed, putting your grass seed down, fertilizing once it germinates, and then fertilizing again late fall into early winter so that it feeds into the spring. Then you want to come in the winter and get your weed prevention kit, or I say winter, late winter, early spring. Come in and get your weed prevention kit, and that'll prevent weeds through a majority of the summer. Now, there's a lot of other things that you can do, and there's a lot more detail into that. So I'm going to go a little bit more into detail here and really tell you everything that I have to tell you about our lawn program and all the different information. Now, we're going to send out a link here to get these handouts. So these are really, really great handouts. There's 2 handouts. There's a full page handout that's front and back. And this is how to maintain a cool season lawn. So this gives you by month everything that you can do. I'm not going to really use this too much because it gets really, really into detail. There's a lot of different things you can do every single month. But it is good information, and it's good information to have. It literally breaks it down by month, so it tells you every month what you can do. January is the shortest month. Every other month is a little bit more detailed. Now, not to say that you have to do all of it, but there are things that you can check into and look into to see if you need to do them. So it's a great one to kind of have on your refrigerator or something, or keep it in a safe place out in your garage or in your shed so that you can always refer to it. Now we've also got a link there that you can click on to get those. This is the one that I really like, this little half page, this little small one. It breaks it down by month, but it really simplifies it, and it really gets you more in how to plant a cool season lawn and how to control weeds. So this goes month by month. And so I'm really going to focus on this one and talk about this one so you can, when you go to click on that link, if you find this little half page one and it starts with August, and that's the month we're in, and that's why we're starting this now. And a lot of you might be saying, why are you doing this so early? Well, August is a great time if you need to redo your entire lawn. So if we're looking at, I use this term kind of loosely, but if we need to kill everything and start from scratch, then now is the time to do that. Because if you wait until September, and then it's getting a little bit late, because to kill it, we really need about 3 to 4 weeks to do it properly. Now, with our killers, with Roundup, Kills-All, Decimate, I'm going to show you all of these killers here in a second. It's going to kill everything it touches. But what I usually tell people is if your lawn is 50% weeds or more, you're actually going to save money starting from scratch. It's actually going to save you time, it's going to save you money, and it's going to be easier and probably a better, quicker result than if you try and attack those certain weeds. So, for example, let's say I've got 50% weeds or more. I've got a lot of crabgrass, I got some clover, I got some different weeds out there, and I want to kill them. Well, we've got a product that'll work. This is our Weed Out with Crabgrass Killer, and this is a great product. Now, the problem is you got to wait 4 weeks before you can plant grass seed after you spray. And not every time are we going to be 100% perfect with our spray. And so if you've got like 20% weeds, you got a little bit here and there, it's a great thing to come in and get this. And that'll prep you and get you ready for putting down your grass seed in the fall in September. But if you have a little bit more weeds than that, that's why I'm doing this class, because I think it's very, very important to start from scratch sometimes. I think you're going to have a better lawn. And so what we want to do is we want to kill it. So we're going to, I know that sounds really, really harsh, but we definitely want to get rid of all of those weeds and then realize why weeds are weeds. So let me show you these products here real quick. So you can kind of see when I keep saying kill your lawn, kill your grass, kill your weeds, kill everything you have, and start from scratch, what are we using? Well, you can use Roundup, so if you've got Roundup, you can use that. This is Kills All, which is very, very similar to Roundup. Same active ingredient, and it's just a little bit less expensive. So the only thing that Roundup has that this doesn't is it's got a burning agent in it. So that's why Roundup's famous for it looks dead very quickly. So that's what this lacks. But that saves you a lot of money. This is $19.99, I think, maybe $24.99, but I'm pretty sure it's right around there. But it does 6,400 square feet. So this kills really, really quickly. It's rain fast in about 2 to 3 hours. So it's really, really easy to apply, and it goes a long way, and you're going to save a lot of money. If you ever go look, that's why we don't carry a lot of Roundup products. We do have some. But we don't carry a whole lot because Kills All is really the one we recommend. Now, you're not going to see death. You're not going to see your plants shriveling up your lawn, your weeds. You're not going to see those shriveling up for probably about 5 to 7 days. Depends on the weather. If it's a nice warm day, you might see it in about 2 or 3 days. But really, it takes about a week to really kill it completely and really go brown. Decimate is a different active ingredient than Roundup, so this one's a little bit safer. So if a lot of people I know are worried about the Roundup and the issue there, this is a different active ingredient. So this one works really, really well too. So we've got another option for you if you don't want to use Roundup. Decimate is a great option. And then we do have an organic option as well. This is our Natural Guard Non-Selective Weed Killer. This will kill everything that it touches as well. Now this works kind of on that same side as Roundup, except it doesn't have, excuse me, it doesn't have a chemical in it. So it's just going to burn the grass. So what that means is it might take multiple sprays to really get rid of it. So Natural Guard's Non-Selective Weed Killer. This will kill whatever it touches, and it just basically burns it to the ground. It doesn't necessarily kill the root system, so we're going to have to keep on burning it to really get rid of everything. But I want to go back to say how important it is to really consider starting from scratch. And what that means is there's a lot of weeds in there. And why are weeds weeds? Weeds are weeds because they seed very quickly. So when we kill a weed, then those seeds that are sitting there on that plant go back into earth. We can't use a pre-emergent, right? We can't use anything to prevent the seeds from germinating because we're about to seed our grass seed. So we can't use any kind of pre-emergent. But what I want you to do, and this is why I want you to start early, is I want you to kill it and then wait for those seeds to germinate and kill them again early. So that really does help to help kind of eliminate that weed population. So if we start 2 weeks before we're planting the seed, you can do that. In fact, you can kill one weekend and you can plant grass seed the next week. But what's probably going to happen is you're going to kill the weeds. You're probably not going to be 100% effective the first time that you go around. And there's going to be some weeds that have some weed seeds on them. And then you're going to get those germinating the same time your grass is. So that's why I'm starting early, is because I want you to have the opportunity to kill it and then go and kill again. And that takes about 3 to 4 weeks. So we're talking about spraying. Let's say we spray this weekend. Then we're going to have to wait a week. It's going to die. And then I want you to scalp it. I'll talk about that here in a second. And then we want to wait again and see if anything else germinates. And that can take another week to 2 weeks after that. So now we're at 3 weeks. And then we can spray one more time on those little tiny baby weeds. And then we're ready to seed the next week after that. So that gives you about a 4-week, month window to really start kind of working your ways towards even getting to seeding. And sometimes it might take a little bit longer. So that's why we're starting a little bit earlier. I personally like to seed my grass around mid to late September, maybe even into October, depending on the weather pattern. So I'm always kind of watching the weather and looking for some cooler weather coming up. And I really think that helps. So kind of keep that in mind as I go through that. Now, let's say you're starting from scratch. Then when you're looking at this little handout and you look at August, one of the first things it's going to say is if your lawn is beyond repair, then come in and kill your lawn and get Killzall to kill it. Now we've got other products now that you can use to work with that. So we've got the Decimate and we've got the Natural Guard Weed Killer as well. Now, one of the first steps that it does say on here is bring in a sample of your soil. I forgot to mention that. pH is very, very important. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later, but pH is really, really important. And so we want to know what your pH is. And here at McDonald Garden Center, we do free pH tests. So all you got to do is bring a little Ziploc bag with a little bit of soil, probably about a quarter of the bag full of soil, and we can do a free pH test for you. And we'll try and do it right there on the spot for you if we can. And so once you know your pH, then we know what range you're in. And pH is extremely vital when we talk about our plant foods, when we talk about our lawn foods. And when we apply a lawn food, if the grass can't get to a majority of it, one, you're pouring money down the drain, and two, it's not going to quite be as effective as you want it to be. So always, when you come in, bring a little bag of soil and we can do a pH test. It's free of charge for all of our Garden Rewards members, which is also a free program to join. So if you're not a Garden Rewards member, you need to sign up for that for sure. All right, so let's say that we're killing, right? Actually, let me just do the pH real quick. Let me just talk about pH real quick, just so we can completely understand that, and that way I don't have to come back to it. All right, pH for a fescue lawn wants to be somewhere between 6 and 7. Preferably 6.5 is really where you want to be. Now, our soil in this area, because of all the oaks and the pines and the maples, is usually very acidic. And so usually we're going to be an average around a 5.5, which is a point below where you need to be. And we need to get that pH up, and we need to get it up fast. So there's a lot of different ways to get your pH up, but calcium by Mcgill is one of our favorite ways. And the reason is because it changes your pH fast. Now, what we've determined over many, many years of using this is it changes it fast, but it can come back down fairly quickly as well. And by fairly quickly, it really ranges on your soil, the environment, how much rainfall we get, all of these different factors that we can't control. But typically, it's going to bring your pH up a point very, very fast. And this bag does 5,000 square feet. So one of these bags is the equivalent to 200 pounds of lime, of pelletized lime, of agricultural pelletized lime. Now, pelletized lime is a great option as well to bring up your pH. It's 40 pounds per 1,000 square feet to bring your pH up 1 point. And don't worry about all of these math functions and different things. Just come in, we'll check out your pH, we'll tell you what you need. But what I really recommend, especially right now, if you're checking our pH now or we're doing our lawn pretty soon, is getting that pH up fast. And that's why I like Mcgill. And also, I didn't want to bring in 200 pounds of lime. Now, pelletized lime is great because it changes your pH. It takes a long time to do it. It takes about 3 to 4, maybe even 6 months to change your pH. So it takes a while to do it, which is why I'm not going to recommend doing it now if your pH is not in the right range. But it's a great thing to consider in the future. And that's why I really tell people, typically if they're coming in around mid-September or early October and they're ready to plant grass seed, don't worry about your pH right now. We can check it. But don't worry about it right now because you're not going to be able to change it that fast. This takes about 2 to 3 weeks, and then pelletized lime can take up to 6 months. I'm going to tell you to just go ahead and get your grass seed down, get it fed, do their package. You got to get rolling on it. Then come back in January and let us check your pH again, see where we're at, and see if we can change it over the long haul. So pelletized lime takes longer to change your pH, but it's going to last a much longer time. Mcgill is going to change it fast. It's going to change it really, really quick, but it's going to come back down fairly quick, and usually that's about 6 to 8 months. So if you apply Mcgill now to get your lawn in the right pH range, to get your soil in the right pH range, then it's going to be something that you're going to want to check on again probably around the end of spring next year to see where your pH is, see if it's falling back down, see if we need to get you more Mcgill, or then you want to do the pelletized lime program. So lots and lots of different options there. Now, why is pH so important? Because at that 6.5, in between a 6 and a 7 on the pH scale, if your soil's in that range, then the grass can get 100% of the food that is applied. And that's really, really important. When the pH is out of the range, then it's locking up that root system from allowing it to get to some of the nutrients that you're applying in the plant food. And so we want to be in that range. If you're down at a 5.5 and you're applying your lawn food, it's only going to be able to get to about 50% of that, maybe even less. So you're really kind of wasting your money and you're not getting the full benefits of a lawn food. And that's why pH is so important. It's really important to understand that at the right pH range, you're getting 100% of the money that you spend on your fertilizer, but also the plant, the fescue lawn is getting 100% of the plant food. And that's why pH is so important to us and to plants. And that's really a broad range. That's generally kind of speaking why pH is one of the most important things when we're looking at our grass and when we're looking at any plant, really. It's making sure we're in the right pH range so that it can get the nutrients that are naturally in the soil, but also the nutrients you're applying with your plant foods. So really important to know. Great kind of tip for vegetable gardeners out there that are maybe struggling with their vegetable garden. Let's check your pH and see if you're in the right range. All right, so that's my pH spiel. So now you understand what pH is and why it's so important. Now, let's say we're going to kill our lawn. We're going to start from scratch. I've convinced you it's easier. And the reason it's easier, and I never really kind of pointed this out, is this is an expensive little product. It's not super expensive, but it also takes time and it's not 100% effective and you're going to probably have to reapply. And so that's why it's going to take more time with this. You're going to have to wait a longer time. It's going to take 4 weeks before you can seed. Whereas with a Kills-All or a Decimate, then you can plant your grass seed a week later if you need to. And it gives you more chance of really kind of getting a total and complete kill. And if you've got 50% weeds or more, that's definitely, I think, the best way to go. It's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, it's going to be easier, and you're going to get a full, complete lawn a little bit quicker, actually. Okay, so let's say we decided to kill. So what we're going to do is go back to our calendar here and see what the next month is. And it's September through October 15th. So at this point, our grass is dead, right? So it's completely dead and we need to get it out of there. Now, this is very important. Do not till unless you have to. And the only reason I would ever till is if you've got lots of undulations, you've got a lot, you really need to regrade everything, then you might need to till in order to loosen up the soil enough for you to kind of maneuver it around, change the elevations, do different things. If you got lots of swales and dips and valleys and you need to level it out, then you can till. Now, what happens is when you till, and so if you're going to till, I'm telling you this now so that you can plan and prepare for it. If you till, what it does is basically it flips the soil almost. Really, honestly, what it does is it's going to bring weed seeds that were too deep to germinate up to a germination level. And what that means is all of a sudden you're going to get some crazy stuff growing in your yard. And if you do your tilling, this happens a lot. People till their yard, they put down the grass seed, they come in and they say, you sold me a bag of weeds. Well, no, if you tilled, and that's always my first question, did you till? And it's usually yes, and that means that what you've done is you brought weed content up to the surface, and that means it can now germinate. And you're gonna get some prehistoric looking stuff typically. So it's really important to not till unless we have to. And so really what I'm gonna recommend doing is composting. So first we gotta get rid of that dead vegetation. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it. I like to drop my mower down real low, put it on the lowest setting and bag it up if I can. It's going to help bag up some of that weed seed. It's going to bag up some of that dead vegetation. It's not 100% necessary. That dead vegetation is going to decay. And even if you sprayed it with Kills-All or Decimate or any of the chemicals that you might spray with, or even an organic killer, then all of that's going to wear off pretty quickly. It's not going to affect the root system of your plant. So you don't have to worry about that. That's what's so good about them is you can spray and plant your grass seed the next week. But we want to remove a lot of that dead vegetation. Typically, I like to, and the easiest way I've always found is drop my mower down as low as I can. If I've got a bagger, I put the bagger on it, and I go around and chop it down real low, scalp it, and then basically bag up all of that dead vegetation. And that gets it down to soil level. Now what you can do is you've got soil, right? And that's what we're looking for with our seed. When we go to put our seed down, we want soil and seed contact. That's really important. So that's why I really want you to get some of that dead vegetation out of there. But the next step is going to be composting. And composting is my #1 kind of secret little tip that really is going to help you with developing a very good lawn. And that's because organic matter is what lacks in our soil. And so organic matter is something like, tree leaves, decaying wood matter, decaying leaves. And there's a lot of different types of compost that you can use. We've got our local Mcgill Compost, which is great for lawns. We carry it in bag and bulk. And we also carry our McDonald compost. We carry mushroom compost, cow manure compost. We've got a lot of them. We've got a land and sea compost, has a little bit of lobster and crab in it. So we've got lots and lots of different options for compost, and they're all great because it's all going to add organic matter back into your soil, and that's typically what lacks in our soil. If your home is fairly new too, what the developer is going to do is come in and strip all that topsoil out of there, and sell it or use it somewhere else in another project, but he's going to leave you with kind of the bad soil. And so that's why organic matter is so important. That's why if you ever live in a wooded area, or if you've got a wooded area nearby, you're going to see some really dark, rich soil. And that's because all that organic matter, all those leaves that have been decaying over the years, have created this great environment and this great soil. And you usually see that on a plant label, right? Every time we look at a plant label, it says evenly moist, well-drained, rich soil. And of course, we all want that, and organic matter is the #1 way of doing it. So how do you do that? Well, if you can do bulk compost, if you've got a larger size yard, we can deliver it, we can drop it on your driveway. If you've got a truck, you can come and pick up 2 or 3 scoops at a time, and then you can spread it. You can also do it by bag. If you've got a smaller area, you can do it by bag. So just bring in your square footage when you come in. If you want to do a compost, a lay down, then come in, let us know your square footage, your length and your width, and that helps us develop how many bags you're going to need or how much bulk you're going to need. We'll take care of all that math for you. You don't need to worry about that. But once we know how much you need to put down, we're going to measure it at about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 an inch. 1/2 an inch is a little deep. We don't want to put it down too thick. Compost is decomposing constantly and it heats up. So it's going to really, really warm up, which is going to be great for germinating your seed. But it's not going to be super good if we put down too much, because all of a sudden that root system is going to develop and it's going to be in compost directly. And if you get a hot day in late September or early October, then all of a sudden you can burn your grass up real quick. So we only want to apply a thin layer. We want to apply 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Now is where we can switch over to if you're doing an overseed. So if we're doing an overseed and you kind of glazed over, as I was talking about killing everything, now is what you can do. You can still put down a compost layer. So when we get down to around the mid-September timeframe, you mow your grass fairly low. It's the only time we're going to mow our fescue very, very low. And by low, I mean maybe 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Tall fescue, it's called tall fescue. I'm going to get to that in a minute. That's a very, very important tip. Tall fescue is a tall grass, so it wants to be 3 to 4 inches for sure. So we're going to mow to about 2.5 inches, and that allows you to put down a compost layer. So if you're overseeding, you don't have a whole lot of weeds, all you got to do is just fill it in, make it a little bit nicer. Then overseed is really what our kits are designed for, but for new lawns as well. So if you're going to be overseeding, you can still put down compost. You're going to want to make sure to put it down very, very thin, 1/4 of an inch, very, very thin layer of compost. And that again is going to add organic matter. If you do that over the next 3 to 4 years, you're going to really develop a great organic, very, very healthy soil with all that rich organic matter. And Mcgill Compost is one of my favorites. That's what we carry in the bulk, and that's what we carry in bags as well. But we've got our McDonald compost, which is a good one, and we've got a lot of other composts. So you got lots and lots of choices of different types of compost to use. But compost is really, really important. So that's why it's on our list as the #2 thing to do in September is remove the dead vegetation if we've killed everything, and then apply 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of Mcgill compost or any compost. So the next one is going to be seed. We've already made it to our seeding level. So again, real quick refresh. We've killed everything if we need to. If we're overseeding, we waited, maybe we mowed it low and put down compost. I do want to throw in one little quick tip here. If you don't have the ability to apply compost, and when I talk about putting your compost down, I want you to put a pile in your yard and then just take a hard rake, like a bow rake, a hard rake, a metal tine rake, and just push it around and thin it out real easily. And I see a question from Christina said, what do you do when you have dogs? Well, completely right now, so far, we've talked about there are organic solutions for all of this. Now, if you have a dog and you still want to use a chemical solution like Kills-All, once you spray it and it's dry, it's safe. Of course, try not to let that dog eat the grass too much. That's definitely not going to be great for it, but it is pretty safe once it's dry. Now, Decimate is the same way. Let it dry and you're safe to walk on it. Don't worry about their paws. If you get a rain in the next day or two, you might try and keep the dog off the grass for a little bit, but once it starts to die, it's dead and there's no reason to worry about it. Now, with the organic spray, the Natural Guard Non-Selective, that's not going to hurt the dog. And compost is organic. So really, we've talked about some organic solutions here, and I will continue to always offer an organic solution to pretty much everything we have if I can. And even when we're talking about seeding and compost, right now, you don't have to worry about any kind of dog issues or any kind of animal issues, because there are some organic options if you want to go that way, or some traditional options that you can be safe with. And with any of these things, I will throw out there real quick, always read your label. There's a little book on the back. It's not super, super detailed. Just go through it and read it just so you know all the precautionary statements in there. And that's going to be important. I'm going to talk about that when we get to the lawn food as well. All right, so back on the compost thing real quick. If you don't have the ability, maybe you've got a bad back, I've got a bad back, but maybe there's some reason that you don't want to apply compost, or maybe you've got a smaller yard or you just don't want to do the compost thing. This is humic acid, and humic acid is a great option. So humic acid is basically this layer in the soil that when they were mining, they found it, and it's just rich in organic matter. It's dehydrated, it's been compressed over years. And so basically what this is a granular form of compost, and you can apply it over your entire lawn. Now, it's not as beneficial as compost. I don't want to tell you that it's better than compost. Organic matter is always going to be the number one winner when you're trying to enrich your soil. But this will actually turn a poor soil into a good soil over time and over multiple uses. And we've got bigger bags of this. This is like a little small bag that we use for our vegetable gardens or a small lawn, but we've got bigger bags that treat 2,000 and 4,000 square feet, so we've got the right size for you if you need it. But humic acid, if you apply it religiously, if you apply it regularly, so about probably somewhere around 2 to 3 times a year, in about 2 years you can turn your poor soil into a good soil. And it might save you some time and some effort. It's probably not going to save you a whole ton of money, probably about the same amount of dollars, but you can spread it out over time. And so it's just a great option for you if you don't want to do the compost. All right, so we've got compost down, hopefully. Hopefully I've convinced you to do that. Now you put down the grass seed. Grass seed is tricky to apply, I will be honest with you. To give you kind of a quick rundown on how to apply the grass seed, we've got a nice, smooth surface. We've killed everything, or we're doing an overseed. We've got a thin layer of compost down. I don't put my seed underneath the compost. I typically put my seed on top. And the reason is because if you put it underneath, it's not bad. It's not going to kill it. It just usually takes a little bit more time for it to germinate, and you start to get worried and you start to get scared. So I like to put it right on top. Now, if I've got a sloped area, or if I've got a major bird problem where a lot of the birds are coming in, then you might put it underneath the compost. But typically, I'm going to recommend putting it right on top. And then I'll tell you there's a little trick that you can use, taking a little leaf rake to kind of rake over the top surface and kind of smooth it out and kind of help settle the seed down into the compost, and then the birds don't typically get to it. But when we apply seed is not a granular. So, when we've got a lawn food or any type of granular product, it's a pretty specific size. So they can get you very specific spreader settings. Now I've got spreader settings, and if you come in, you can get those, and they're kind of a judgment call. So because seed is an oblong, kind of thin, long shape, so it's not going to fall at a regular pattern. It's not always going to fall perfectly out of your spreader. So whether you're using a drop spreader or a rotary spreader, we'll have those spreader settings for you. But I do want to tell you a little trick that I learned, which is a great trick. And this is pretty important, is what you want underneath a quarter's width. So imagine a quarter, the size of a quarter, and putting that down on the soil. How many seeds do you want under that? So for an overseed lawn, we want 5 to 7 seeds underneath a quarter. For a new lawn, we want 10 to 14 seeds underneath a quarter. A lot of times people put down way too much seed. They love their lawn. It looks gorgeous in the fall. It's super, super thick probably. And this is the problem. It becomes too thick because that grass needs a little bit of space to grow into. So what happens is you got this gorgeous thick lawn, and sometimes it happens in the fall, but typically it's going to happen in the spring. You're going to get some sort of fungus in there. And then the fungus is going to really decimate your grass. And that's because there's no way for the grass and the soil to breathe. And therefore you get a very, very gorgeous looking lawn that all of a sudden becomes really ugly because we've got a fungus. So that's why it's important to understand 5 to 7 seeds for a new lawn or for an overseed, and then 10 to 14 seeds in a new lawn. And so it's real easy. Just take your spreader, put it on the settings that we suggest, and then walk a couple feet and then check it. Now, what I also like to do is do 2 passes if I can. So I'll usually take the spreader settings, cut it down, push it a couple feet, check. So let's do a little bit of math here. For a new lawn, I want 10 to 14 seeds. So if I'm doing my first pass, I want half of that, or half of the half. So I really want probably about 5 to 7 seeds underneath in my first pass, and then I'm going to do 2 passes. For an overseed, I really want about 2 to 3 seeds in my first pass. And the reason I like to do 2 passes is because you don't typically get those lines. So we can go up and down the grass, or up and down the soil, if we've killed everything, and then we can come back across this way. And that allows you not to get those lines, because what inevitably happens is if you just do 1 pass, is that pass where they overlap, then you're going to get a thick kind of line of grass seed. So you're going to get a thicker patch of grass and then some thinner patches. And you're going to see those definitions when you go and as your grass seed starts to germinate. And so it's really, really important to kind of do 2 passes if you can. I think it helps. I think it makes it look a little bit more even. Now, no matter what you do, once we've got our grass seed down, then I really do recommend taking a little leaf rake, even if you're doing a new lawn or overseed. Take a leaf rake, a metal tined rake, a light kind of leaf rake. It could be plastic too, and just kind of go over everything. And what that does is make sure that the seed gets to the soil and contacts the soil, and that is going to make sure that it germinates properly and effectively and has something to root into when it does germinate. And so that's really, really important to know that. And so if you've got some seed that's sitting up on top of other grass blades or other leaves, then your leaf rake going through there will knock them back down to the soil level. And it just evens everything out. If you got some clumps of grass seed, it evens it out. And so that's a great little trick, is after we've spread our grass seed, just take a light leaf rake and go through. We don't need to rough up the soil or anything. Just take a nice light leaf rake. Now, I don't see anybody asking the question, but I did forget to mention, what about aeration? Aeration is not a bad thing. However, I think composting really kind of replaces aeration. Composting is going to add organic matter. It's going to loosen up your soil over time. And aeration is not a bad thing. If you're going to do aeration, do core aeration. And what that means is it literally pulls that little plug of soil out, puts it on the top, and that's not a bad thing to do. Whether you should seed before or after, I typically recommend seeding after aeration rather than before, because that core aerator machine that they're going to run through your yard, whether you rent it yourself or whether you hire somebody to do it, that's going to disturb the new seeding a little bit. So I usually seed after core aeration. Now what core aeration does is pulls that little plug of soil out, puts it off to the side basically, and then that soil starts to fill in those holes. And so those holes go away, and what that does is actually loosens the soil. Don't use those spike shoe things. A lot of people say, put the spikes on and go and mow your grass and you'll aerate it. The problem is those spikes actually compress it more, because those spikes, as they go in, are compressing your soil inward, and then it's loosening over top of that, but you're still compressing it. It's not really pulling anything out, and so core aeration is what you want to do. But I recommend composting over core aeration always. I think you're going to be so much happier. It's a little bit easier. You can do it yourself, and if you can't do it, you've got another option. So I'm going to keep going back to that compost because I really think it's important. Leaf rake after you seed. So once we put our seed down, now it's the time to water. Now watering, I know, can be tricky. So as you're going to see here, it's going to say seed with our McDonald Tall Fescue mix or our Shady mix. We've got 2 different mixes. I'm going to tell you about our grass seed here in a little bit. And then we can get to watering. Now there is one extra step you can do if you want to. I'm going to throw in some extra steps if you need to do them. Or if you really, again, we want you to have the best lawn on the block. And so our new lawn starter fertilizer is a different option. Now, it's not going to replace these. With our lawn kits, you still get this. But if you want to apply a new lawn starter, now's the time. You can apply it with your grass seed. I don't recommend applying this with the grass seed because it's going to waste it a little bit, because you want your seed to germinate. You want something there that's going to actually use the lawn food. So if it takes 10 to 14 days, it could take it up to 2, maybe even 2.5 weeks before the seed germinates, then all that lawn food that you're watering every day, because we're about to get to the watering part, is going to go to nothing. And that's not great for the environment, one, but it's also not great for the grass. You're kind of wasting it. This you can put down with your grass seed, or it can be your first bag of fertilizer when your seed germinates. You can do it either or. But it's a slow release, and it's got phosphorus in it. And phosphorus is what develops root system. And so whenever you look at your 3 numbers on a bag of plant food, then your first number is nitrogen, your middle number is phosphorus, and your last number is potassium. And so what I always refer to is up, down, all around. Nitrogen is upward growth. Phosphorus is downward growth, root system, and potassium's all around. It's an all-around protector. So whenever you look at a fertilizer, you'll know what those numbers mean. The first one is nitrogen. It's going to boom the up part, the green part of your plant. The next one is phosphorus, and phosphorus is going to develop a root system. And then the last one's potassium, which is an all-around protector. Up, down, all around. So this is a great little added step, because you'll notice with our lawn food plus iron, there's no phosphorus. Now, what that means is we want you to get a lot of nitrogen into your fescue, because fescue loves nitrogen, and we're going to try and boom it in the fall season so that it's ready to go, and it's going to develop a root system in the later kind of fall, winter into spring season. But that's a great added step that you can do. It's really, really a good one. So back to watering. Watering is very, very important. Now, Watering with seed germination. What does that mean? When we're watering seed, what are we trying to get it to do? We're trying to get it to germinate, but I don't want you to sit there and water it all day long and really saturate your soil. The way that a seed germinates is by breaking down the seed coating, and that's what water does. So water is going to break down the seed coating, but a expansion and contraction is what's going to break down that seed coating more effectively and faster. And so what that means is I want you to water it in the morning and let it dry out by night. And so what that means is when you get home at 5 or 6 o'clock, if you're at work or if you're at home and it starts to dry out at like noon or 2, it's too little water. But watering is important to expand it. It's going to suck up that moisture. It's going to expand, and then it's going to contract as it starts to dry out. And what that also does is it gets you in the mode of watering in the morning and letting it dry out by nightfall, which is going to be better for the grass when we start to get it to germinate. But it's also going to help your seed germinate a little bit faster. And I don't want you to feel like you got to water it all the time. Watering it at night is the worst thing you could possibly do. It causes fungus, plus it's not going to help with the expansion contraction. It's going to dry out much faster in the earlier part of the day, and so you're going to need to water at night and in the morning. So I really want you to just try and water in the morning, water enough that it's going to stay pretty moist till about 3 or 4 o'clock, and then if it's dry by the time you get home, that's okay. Don't worry about it. If it makes you feel better to go out there and mist it down real quick, that's fine, but I don't want you to think you have to keep it saturated all the time. We want it to expand with the moisture and then contract, and that expansion and contraction is what's going to break down that seed coating and allow it to germinate. Now, once it germinates, different story. Now we're actually watering a root system, and we're trying to keep a plant alive, and we're trying to keep millions of plants alive. So that's how you get it to germinate. It's going to take about 10 to 14 days. Depends on soil temperature, depends on soil consistency, and depends on your watering habits. But about 10 to 14 days, you should see that seed to start to germinate. And that's pretty quick. So that's pretty fast. And then all of a sudden, we've got our seed. Now we can fertilize. We can put our first plant food down because we're not going to waste it. And that's going to go right into the new root system of the plant and start to develop that fescue blade and start to develop each individual plant. And why is the lawn food plus iron so good? Well, it's 24% nitrogen. So 24 is a pretty high nitrogen content, but that's really going to help your grass really kind of boom and grow real fast and really start to green up real heavily and really start to grow pretty aggressively. And that's what we want. We want to get it to where it needs to be a little bit faster, and that's why we love this one. Now, if you're worried about dogs, not that this is a bad thing, try and keep them off the lawn as much as you can when you first apply things or after a rain. But if you want to do an organic solution, then we do have a Spomas organic lawn food. And we do have an organic lawn kit, so you can do this one as well. So with our organic lawn kit, all you do is replace these two with 2 of these. Your grass seed is completely organic. The lawn food is a traditional lawn food, but we've got a organic lawn food as a supplement if you want to do the organic lawn kit. Same price, same deal, $1.99 for a bag of grass seed and 2 bags of lawn food. Does 5,000 square feet. Same exact program, just an organic lawn food. Now, organic lawn foods are going to be lighter, so you're going to see this one is a 911. So it's a little bit lighter in the nitrogen, but it's a good fertilizer, and organics are a great option and a great way to go. I usually tell people if you need to get your grass completely renovated and completely redo it, you might stick to a traditional method the first year, and then we can look at doing organics and switching over to complete organic lawn in the future. But sometimes it's good to go kind of traditional to get it to where you need to get it to real quick, and then we can switch over to organics if that's the path you want to take. And that's why I like applying the lawn food when the grass seed starts to germinate, because it's going to use it. We're in the right pH, hopefully our pH is in the right pH. It's going to use a majority of that plant food, and you're not going to get a lot of runoff. Now let's talk about our rainfall in this area. Rainfall is considered a watering as long as you get about 1 inch. So 1 inch is a good rainfall, and that means you don't typically have to water. But what I don't want you to do is go and apply a fertilizer or your grass seed right before we have one of those big rainstorms. And typically and so I usually tell people don't rely on the rain at all, because if you live in the Hampton Roads area, they might say rain, and it could be a dusting or a spattering of rain. They might say a little bit of rain and you get a gully washer. And the gully washers are the ones that we want to be prepared for and try and eliminate. And that means that all the stuff just washes into puddles and piles of grass seed. Now if that happens, you can go out and take a leaf rake and kind of pull it apart. But we don't want to lose our fertilizer down the storm drains. So we want to make sure we're applying it and then watering it in. And we want to apply it on a dry day so that we know that we can water it in ourselves. And that gets it kind of sticking to the soil and gets it starting to kind of break down a little bit. And that way you don't have to worry about the gully washers as much. All right, so now we've fed. It's pretty simple from there. I'm going to talk a little bit more about watering, but really what we want to do is apply the plant food once it germinates. Now, let me go back to watering here real quick. Remember I said 1 inch of water? Well, what's an inch? You can take any kind of sprinkler system, whether you've got an in-ground sprinkler system, which are okay. I'm not a true believer in in-ground sprinkler systems, but you can use a oscillating sprinkler or an impulse sprinkler. There's a lot of different types of sprinklers. All we're trying to do is apply a good, even watering across the entire area. A lot of your oscillating sprinklers, people say they're better because they emulate natural rainfall, which is somewhat true, and they do kind of cover a broader kind of square footage. So you can get ones that are designed for square footage. This one does 2,600 square feet. We've got some that do almost up to 4,000. I personally love the impulse sprinkler because I can put them in different areas and I can control the pattern. And what this does is it allows you, this is the one that goes back. So what you can do is you can actually put this in the corners of areas. You can put it out in the center and let it do a big circle. But this one is made by Dram. It's my favorite one. It's all metal parts. There's no plastic parts. It's a really super well done and very high-end built impulse sprinkler. And it shoots a very long distance. And you can control it, so you can have it come and then it can come back, or you can do a full circle. So I kind of love that. And there's a lot of different types of sprinklers out there. Whatever suits your needs is fine by me. We just need to apply water. What I don't want you to do is go out there with your sprayer, with your hand, and spray. And the reason is we want to get 1 inch of water every single time in water. Every single time I want you to get 1 inch. Well, how do you do that? What I want you to do is take a tuna can or a Tupperware dish or something that's about 1 inch deep that gives you a little bit of width to it. So a rain gauge is fine if that's what you want to use, if you've got one. But I like to take a tuna can or a Tupperware dish or something that's about 1 inch deep, put it out there, turn on my sprinkler. And I do this every single fall season before I start my fall season. And then I time it the first time. So I say I'm going to time it and see how long it takes to get 1 inch of water. And that tuna can or that Tupperware dish, once it's full, then I know, okay, it's taken 30, 45 minutes, an hour. It depends. It really depends on where you live, and it can change. And that's why I do it every fall, is because it can change from year to year. Your flow of water, the pressure of water that you get to your spigot is different every time that you do it, or every season it seems like, but can change over time. And so that's why I want you to check it every single time. But if you get a general range, that's what you want to be in. So let's say it takes 45 minutes. So now you got to water every morning for 45 minutes. You don't need to keep the tuna can or the Tupperware dish out there every single day. But then you know that you've watered 1 inch of water. So we're going to water every day, every morning, 1 inch till we get our grass seed to germinate. 10 to 14 days later, we're going to have little blades of grass. Then we're going to put down our first bag of lawn food plus iron, or if you want to supplement in that new lawn starter, it's a great option. And then we're going to continue to water, because now we've got live plants that are living, and we put down plant food and they're going to grow and they're going to need a little bit more water. So we want to still water 1 inch, and we want to water every morning for about the first week to 2 weeks. And I usually put that right around that 2 week range. So we're talking almost a month of every morning watering. So great if you've got an in-ground sprinkler system, super easy. But I don't want your grass to rely on this. And this is, I think, a really important thing, is to understand how plants find water and how plants use water. And so what I want you to do is apply water every single morning, because the grass can't get it itself when it's in that young infant state. But after about 2 weeks, I want you to start cutting back. So we're going to do 10 to 14 days of watering every morning here. Once we get grass and we've put down our first bag of lawn food, then it's going to be another 14 days of watering every morning. But then I want you to start cutting back. I want you to go to every other day. And then I want you to go every third day, to the point where hopefully by, depending on when you put down your grass seed, hopefully around November, and we've got rainfall in the fall. So if we get a good rain, you don't have to turn your sprinkler on. But let's say we're going to do every day for about the first 3 to 4 weeks, and then we're going to start cutting back, so that by the end of November, we're doing it once a week. We want to get to that once a week level. And then eventually, really by the mid part of December, you shouldn't be really watering at all. The grass should be on its own. Now that's the problem, is people typically might go every morning and then switch to nothing. And then that's the problem, is the grass hasn't developed a root system. So think like a plant. Let's put ourselves in the grass shoes, in the shoes of the grass, and say, what am I doing? Well, if every single morning I'm getting my water, then I'm not going anywhere. My root system's not going to go try and find water. So I want to push it, and that's why we start to cut off every other day. If we go to every other day, the grass starts to say, uh-oh, I'm not getting my water. Let me go see if I can find some. And then it gets it the next day, so it survives. And then we're going to do that for about a week. And then the next week, we're going to cut it to every third day. So every 2 days off and then a day on. And what that does is makes the grass say, okay, I'm starting to get less and less water. I got to keep on searching. Fescue can develop a 2 to 3 feet foot deep root system. So that means it can really get down there. And the deeper that we force that root system to search for its own water, the stronger that grass is going to be. And so that's really going to help you as you get into those summer months next year and that we develop that root system. Now, the reason I don't love in-ground watering systems, it's great when you need it, but the problem is we get very reliant on it. And then the grass gets very reliant on it. And then all of a sudden something happens and it doesn't work. You're on vacation or something and you didn't realize it and it hasn't been running for a week and the grass is sitting there saying, it's 85 degrees and I'm not getting my water. So we are trying to push our grass a little bit to become somewhat self-sustainable. And that's why watering is so important, to not make your grass become reliant on it, but also to make your grass realize that it can get water if it needs it. So watering is super, super important. Now, once we get to about that November timeframe, that late November, early December timeframe, we're going to put our second bag of lawn food down and we're done for the year. Now, there's some other added steps that we can do, of course. There's more that you can do. This is a Winterizer plant food. So you can actually feed your grass 4 times in the fall and winter season. We can do one, we can add the new lawn starter if we want to, and then do these 2 bags. And if we add the new lawn starter and throw this in there, if we add the new lawn starter, then about probably 2 to 3 weeks later, we're going to put our first bag of lawn food plus iron down. Because that new lawn starter is going to run its course fairly quickly, and it's more phosphorus than anything. Now the Winterizer, you're going to see when we look at the numbers, it's a 10-0-14. So it's got a little bit of nitrogen, and we're going to apply this probably around late December, maybe even early January. And what that's going to do is add potassium, because that last number is potassium. It's got no phosphorus. It's almost more potassium than anything. And potassium is just going to protect it. It's going to help that root system stay through that cold winter season, and then it's just going to really just kind of be there to protect it. This is really great for the St. Augustine and zoysias that are summer grasses. They're about as far north as they want to come. So if you've got a St. Augustine or a zoysia lawn, you definitely want to come in and get this. And this you're actually going to put down a little bit earlier on those. But for a fescue lawn, it's a great added benefit that you can put down kind of late December, early January. All right, so now we've got our grass done. Our grass is germinated, it looks great, and then I want you to come back in the winter and get our weed prevention kit. So we're going to start this around February. I'll touch on this real quick again for people that maybe missed it the first time. But what this is a pre-emergent. You put the first bag down in February, mid-February into February, and then you spray any weeds that are up. You put your second bag down in May, and you get your May and June coverage, which is going to stop the crabgrass from taking over. And really, it's as simple as that. I mean, it's pretty easy. Now, there's a lot of other little tips and tricks. A couple of things that I want to kind of go back and touch on. The 25-pound bag of grass seed does 4,000 for a new lawn, 6,000 of an overseed. It's a really, really good grass seed. Now, I want to talk about the grass seed here for a minute. I carry it in different bags. I've got a 5-pound bag and a 10-pound bag. What's really cool about this grass seed is the types of grass that are in it. Now, I put 3 different types of grass seed in our fescue mix, and that's because if something happens 5-10 years down the road, hopefully it never does, I've never had it happen to me. Let's say something attacks one type of grass. You don't lose your entire lawn. So if you're just using a specific one type of grass seed and then all of a sudden some disease affects that in the future, then you could lose your entire lawn. And that's why I love this grass seed. Our grass seed has no filler in it. So I will warn you, I will tell you, every bag of grass seed has this white label on the back. If it doesn't, don't buy it because it's not certified. It's not even supposed to be sold in the state of Virginia. It's got to have this label on the back. And it tells you your different types of grass seed in it. So this year we've got Firecracker, Raptor, and Avenger. All 3 grasses are on Virginia Tech's top rated list. So that means Virginia Tech is testing them here in Hampton Roads. And this is the extension agent is testing them here in Hampton Roads. And they are developing this list off of how well they perform. And so and it takes years and years to get on that list. So this grass, these 3 different types of grasses have been on that list for years now, and we know it's a very, very good grass. So it's designed for this area. It's specifically for this area. We know it's the best 3 types of fescue. And so that's a really, really good grass. And so it's Firecracker, Raptor, and Avenger. Really, really good grass. It's also got a very high germination rate, 85% germination rate, so that's really good. But if you look at the other percentages, so there's going to be other crop seed, 0.2. so that's almost nothing. It's going to have inert matter is at 1%, and that's inert matter is dust, basically. And then weed seed, 0.05. That is almost non-existent. So this is pure seed. Now what you're going to find if you go and look at other different types of grass seed is you're going to see that it's going to say, you know, you're going to get like a 25-pound bag of grass seed, but if you're only getting 12.5 pounds of grass, because they're putting that coating on there. They're saying it's a water-saving technology or a little bit of plant food. We don't mess with that. We want pure grass seed. We want you to get 25-pound bag of grass seed, actual grass seed. So this does 4,000 to 6,000 square feet. A 25-pound bag of grass seed that's got a coating on it is going to only do half of that. It's only going to do 2,000 of new lawn and 4,000 or 3,000 of overseed. So really, really important to always look at your label. And the great thing is you can always trust us here at McDonald Garden Center. So if you live near us, then you want to get the best grass seed, this is the one to come and get. Now, one of the last things I think I want to talk about is the name tall fescue. Why is it called tall fescue? So why does it struggle in the summer months? Well, we're in a transition zone where you can do some summer grasses, and it's about the farthest south that you come for some of your cool season grasses like fescue. But it's called tall fescue for a reason, and that's because it likes to be tall. So we don't want to ever mow it too low. So I see a lot of people doing this all the time. They mow their grass at about 2.5, maybe 3 inches. That's pretty low, especially when we get to the summer months. The summer months is when that grass is really going to struggle. And what is going to happen is that soil is going to get so hot. We got evaporation occurring. We might need to water. We might need to supplement some water in there to keep it a little bit, but that's not going to keep it cool. It's just going to give it the water that it needs. But to keep it cool, what you can do is let that tall fescue get tall. And I'm talking 4 inches tall. So I want you to have your mower on the highest possible setting as we start to get into those summer months and all summer long. The nice thing is it's not going to grow super aggressively in the summer, so you're not going to be out there having to mow too much. And when it gets to about 5 inches, you can mow an inch off to about 4 inches. And I want you to keep it at 4 inches initially, and eventually I hope that you'll love it so much that you'll keep it there. And the only time I ever mow my fescue low is as we get closer to the fall season when I'm about to put down seed or put down compost, or do both. So that's what's so good about fescue is it will actually cool itself off, and if you let it get tall. Tall fescue, it's got to be tall. So it's not going to be, you know, your putting green surface. It's going to be your rough. So it's going to be 3 to 4 inches. And really, I want you to try and push yourself to keep it at that 4-inch level. It's really going to help it through those summer months. See way too many people mowing their fescue too low in the summer months, and it just harms it so badly. The other thing is don't apply fertilizer in the spring. Really don't recommend it. I really want you to go focus on in the spring and summer weed control. Keep the weeds out. If it gets a little bit thin, that's okay. We'll come back and we'll top dress it in the fall and we'll overseed in the fall, and you'll be good to go again. Now, that's usually the reason that people don't love doing fescue lawns is because they say, oh, I got to constantly overseed it. You shouldn't really have to. I have found that if you use a good, high-quality grass seed and you're doing our programs of controlling weeds in the fall and winter, or in the spring and summer, and then concentrating on your grass in the fall and winter, then you will really have a nice lawn. And I have found that over about the first, I usually overseed for the first, so I do a new lawn, and then I overseed the next year, and then sometimes I usually will take a year off here and there. And eventually get to the point where I'm not overseeding very often. That's really where we want you to get. Now, all of that depends on Mother Nature, our environment in this area, and seeing how the temperatures go and how much rainfall we get, or how little or how too much. So it really depends a lot on environmental factors that are out there, the different types of soils that are out there. So that's why we can't guarantee that, but I hope that you get there. And I have found that I've been there before where I get to the point where I didn't overseed for 2 or 3 years, and then finally I did it again just to fill it in just a little bit. So getting it tall is, I think, the biggest tip. And then watching it. You know, when it's 100 degrees out and it's been 100 degrees for 5 days, then go out and give it some water. And give it a good, deep, heavy watering. I think that really helps. Don't go out there and just spray it down with a hose. That's not going to help it. Just really give it a nice, deep, long watering, and you'll be good for about a week. All right, so that's pretty much the rundown. Stick with our 2 tips here, our two kits, and you're going to have a great lawn. All about the fall, all about the grass in the fall. And that's what we're doing right now. So come in and get your kit, your lawn kit, and then in the winter, late winter, early spring, come in and get your spring weed control kit. And just by doing those 2 simple things, you really can have an amazing lawn, and very, very simply done. And then there's a lot of added steps in there. You can get these handouts. These are great handouts. We can tell you about every different thing you can be doing with this one. And then this one is kind of your quick and easy one. Quick and easy rundown of everything that you can do just to kind of get your 2 kits done. So this is kind of our complete lawn care calendar here of a cool season grass that specifically talks about this kit and this kit. Couple little added extras in there if you want to do them. This one really goes in depth by month, all the different things that you can do. So really that's a short and sweet. I know it's not super short, it took me about an hour, but it really can be as simple as that. This kit and then the spring weed control kit. So come in soon and get your grass. We've got a great selection right now of this really high-end grass. You're gonna love this grass. Get your 2 bags of lawn food, whether you're getting this or the organic lawn food, and you can come in and see us. Now, I didn't mention the shady grass. I'll mention it real quick. If you've got shady areas, fescue really does pretty well in a little bit of shade, the tall fescue. So if it's a little bit of shade, I'm still gonna recommend this. If it's very deep shade, then we might recommend our shady mix, which we also carry bags of shady mix, which is also a type of fescue. I like to blend it if I can. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of overlap it a little bit, have the tall fescue mix in with the shady mix, and then that way you don't get that defined line. Because it is a slightly different color green. It's not very noticeable. It's almost hardly noticeable to the naked eye, but it is a thinner blade. It's a slightly different look, and so we want to blend it a little bit there. But we'll deal with those on a case-by-case scenario. I really recommend the tall fescue. I use it in pretty much everything because when it's growing, there's no leaves on the tree, and when it's getting shade in the summer, it actually prefers it okay. So we've got 2 different types of great grass seed, but the tall fescue is really good. Diane said Bermuda. So what about Bermuda? Well, Bermuda, if you've got Bermuda and you want to get rid of it, then you're definitely going to want to kill it and start from scratch. If you've got Bermuda and you want to grow Bermuda, then you don't want to do anything right now. So if you're doing Bermuda, what you can do is you can put down rye. I grabbed this bag of rye just in case. So rye grass is how you can turn a Bermuda or St. Augustine or zoysia lawn into an evergreen lawn. And that means basically you're going to put down rye in the fall season. Pretty much as that Bermuda goes dormant, as you start to see it going to that straw color, we're going to put down rye, and then the rye is going to germinate real quick. Usually I tell people the first time they do rye might be the last time. It's a really gorgeous grass. It's great, but it's thick. It gets wet. You're mowing a lot. Even in the winter, like when it's 20 degrees out, you might have to go out and mow it. But it's the way to get an evergreen lawn with Bermuda. So you can do rye if you want to, or you can just let it go straw color. Now, what you can do in the winter time frame is control weeds. And then as we get to the spring season, typically around, I usually say the end of April, early May, is when you can start to seed Bermuda or plug Bermuda. So Diane, if you're interested in doing Bermuda, if you want to have a Bermuda lawn, it's a great grass. Bermuda is one of the only native lawn grasses. So if you talk about desirable grasses, the 4 I've mentioned today, St. Augustine, zoysia, Bermuda, and fescue, Bermuda is the only grass that natively grows here in Hampton Roads. So that must mean that it likes it here. Now, a lot of people don't like our native Bermuda. They call it wiregrass. But if you want a good Bermuda, we've got nice hybrids, and you just want to come in around late April, early May, and start to do those. If you want to hear a whole webinar on the summer lawns, I've done it. It's up on our website. If you go to mcdonaldgardencenter.com and you check out my Guru tab, the Garden Guru tab, you can go to all my past webinars, and I've done one. I'll do one again next year probably. So all about our summer lawns, our St. Augustine, zoysia, and Bermuda, and all the different applications that you can do from seeding to sodding to plugging. So it really helps you kind of develop that. So Diane, if you want to do it, you can do it. Bermuda is a great option here. It's very low maintenance, whereas probably fescue is a little bit more on the high maintenance side, but fescue is by far the prettiest grass that you can grow in this area. So if you want the best lawn on the block, I recommend fescue, but Bermuda would be my next favorite. It's a very low maintenance, very easy grass that you can grow pretty effectively and easily from seed or plug. So we got a great option there as well. So hopefully that helped everybody. Let's see, I don't think I see any other questions. Richard, I didn't say hello. Hope you enjoyed this. Tony, enjoy your vacation, and everybody have a great day. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and we'll see you next week if you want to join us to learn how to grow sprouts inside your home. It's a great way of adding some energy and some protein, and it's a very healthy snack, and I've been loving doing it over the past couple of months. So thank you, Diane. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next week.